Hi there, I'm Suparna Goswami. I'm Associate Editor with Information Security Media Group. We are in Sydney and we have the darling harbour as a backdrop. And we are speaking to the top minds in Sydney in the cybersecurity space. And with me today is Scott Leach, who is VP APJ with Varonis. So Scott, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Scott would be speaking about data security, AI, privacy, and security considerations. So Scott, all about AI this year, last year as well. So what are some of the risk and privacy considerations when it comes to AI?
Yeah, look, great question. I think the first thing to acknowledge is that every business today runs on data. And unfortunately, for a lot of businesses, they don't have a good handle on where their data is, on who's got access to it, or how it's being used. And so the challenge is if you turn AI on without knowing where your data is, there's a huge risk of sensitive information being inadvertently exposed.
So where do you think enterprises are falling short when it comes to securing their data in the world of AI?
Look, I think for most of them, it comes down to, do you know where your data is? Do you know who's got access to your data? Do you know how that data is being used? And can you set yourself up so that users only have access to the information that they need to do their jobs and not access to a whole lot of information that they really shouldn't?
Okay. And where is Varonis playing the part here? How are you helping your customers prepare for data security in the age of AI?
Look, really around those areas, right? We really three things we're focused on: helping them understand where their sensitive information is across their business and who's got access to that. Once we do that, they then have a really good picture of where their information is and where it's at risk. We then leverage automation to lock the data down without breaking anything so that users only have access to the information that they need to perform their roles and not access to other information that they shouldn't have access to. And then we monitor how the data is being used in real time so that if the data starts to get used in unusual ways, we can see it and stop it before it becomes a problem for them.
Sure. So Scott, I'm sure you would be interacting with a lot of CISOs out there. You're interacting with the businesses.
Yep.
So what can you give some examples on what are some of the risk considerations that they speak to you about, and some examples on how you have managed to, overcome those, or what are the kind of suggestions that you're giving them?
Let me give you maybe a couple of horror stories to start with, right? So probably my favorite story was a CIO who turned Copilot on to his business, hoping that it was going to deliver lots of productivity gains for them. And one of the first uses of Copilot inside their business was one of the employees who decided that they'd use Copilot a bit like a dating app, a bit like Tinder. So started asking Copilot questions like, can you give me visibility of all of the women who work out of the same office as I do between a certain age range?
Oh.
We've had other, kind of less malicious examples where financial services organizations have turned on technology like Copilot to try and help their traders become more productive, but inadvertently exposed salary and commission information to everybody in the business. So one of the big problems we see when I'm out talking to CIOs and CISOs is the fact that they really can't get these AI projects out of pilot because they're worried about the security and privacy implications of doing that. And so for us as a vendor, really that's the space we play and help. So, we offer a very, very easy Copilot risk assessment where we come in about an hour, we set up our technology, and we give these organizations visibility of where their sensitive data is, where it's at risk, how it's being used, and a plan for them to lock it down so that they can safely get technology like Copilot or Gemini deployed.
Excellent. So Scott, can you share some examples of the kind of results they have seen after you have spoken to them, after you have deployed your product? What have been the results that they have seen? What are the changes?
Look, I think it's really impactful, right? Because many of these organizations have been struggling for sometimes years to get a handle on where their data is, who's got access to it, how it's being used, and then to effectively lock it down. We've seen results in as little as 5 or 10 days where we've been able to go into an organization, identify all of their sensitive data, help lock it down so that it's not accessible to people that it shouldn't be, and then start monitoring and tracking how it's being used in real time. So it really is a very quick, automated, seamless process. And we've worked with some of the largest organizations here in Australia to do that so that they can safely get their Copilot projects out of pilot.
Sure. So this year as well as last year, we have been talking about generative AI. AI, of course, has been there for a long time, but generative AI is something that has picked up. So according to you, what are the kind of questions that CISOs or the business leaders need to ask when it comes to data security in the age of generative AI?
I think they need to understand what data they have out there that's potentially accessible to these generative AI tools. Think about it. If you don't know where your salary information is, or your customer data is, or your contracts and legal data is, all of that information is potentially accessible to these generative AI applications. And so really it starts with visibility. How do I get visibility on what data's out there and what data is at risk? Once you know where your data is and where it's exposed, you can then take steps to lock it down and fix it. Then you know that you can deploy generative AI technology safely without risking sensitive data being inadvertently exposed to your end users who start asking interesting questions.
Okay. And what is your prediction? Where do you see the security industry heading in the age of generative AI in the next couple of years?
Look, I think it's going to be a battle of AI versus AI, right? I think we're seeing AI being used for nefarious purposes, but I think AI...
defending as well.
Absolutely, for defending as well. And so, for us as a vendor, we're looking for more and more ways to leverage AI capability in our own technology to help keep businesses safe and help keep their data protected.
Great. Excellent, Scott. Great speaking with you.
Pleasure speaking with you as well.
You were watching Scott Leach for ICNG. This is Suparna Goswami. Thank you so much for watching.